Snoop Dogg pulled into the modest parking lot of Soul Kitchen, his newest venture in downtown Los Angeles. The upscale soul food restaurant had been open for 3 months, and while the reviews were good, he wanted to see how his staff treated everyday customers. The late afternoon sun cast long shadows across the asphalt as he stepped out of an ordinary Honda Civic, deliberately leaving his luxury vehicles at home. Gone were the flashy chains and designer clothes that usually adorned his tall frame. Instead, he wore worn jeans, scuffed sneakers, and a basic gray hoodie pulled low over his face. A few days of stubble completed the transformation from music and business mogul to average Joe. He'd even practiced walking differently, slightly hunched, trying to be as unremarkable as possible. Through the large front windows, he could see the dinner service getting underway. The interior glowed warmly, tables draped in crisp white linens, crystal glasses catching the light from elegant chandeliers. The restaurant specialized in elevated soul food, combining traditional recipes with modern culinary techniques. It was meant to be upscale, but welcoming at least. That was the vision. Marcus, the maitre d', stood at his podium near the entrance, immaculately dressed in a black suit. As Snoop approached the door, he noticed Marcus's welcoming smile fade slightly, his eyes doing a quick scan of Snoop's attire. The transformation in the man's expression was subtle but unmistakable. "Good evening, sir," Marcus said, his tone carrying a hint of reluctance. "Do you have a reservation?" Snoop kept his voice casual, different from his usual distinctive drawl. "Nah, just thought I'd stop in for dinner. Y'all got space?" Marcus glanced down at his reservation book, though Snoop could see several empty tables from where he stood. "I'm afraid we're fully committed this evening. Perhaps you'd like to make a reservation for another night?" His tone suggested he hoped Snoop wouldn't. "Looks like you got some open tables right there," Snoop said, gesturing past Marcus. The maitre d' shifted uncomfortably. "Those are reserved for our regular clientele. We maintain certain standards here at Soul Kitchen. There's a wonderful casual dining establishment just a few blocks down that might be more suitable." "Standards?" Snoop interrupted, keeping his voice level. "What kind of standards we talking about?" Marcus straightened, his professional mask slipping slightly. "Sir, Soul Kitchen is a fine dining establishment. We have a dress code, and I'm afraid your current attire doesn't meet our requirements. Additionally, without a reservation, where's that dress code posted?" Snoop asked, looking around. "Don't see it anywhere." A well-dressed couple approached the entrance, and Marcus's demeanor instantly brightened. "Ah, Mr. and Mrs. Thompson, your usual table is ready." He practically ignored Snoop as he grabbed menus and began leading them inside. Snoop remained standing there, watching as the couple was escorted to one of the reserved tables he'd been told wasn't available. Through the window, he could see Jessica, his head server, fawning over them with the wine list. He decided to try one more time, stepping inside despite Marcus's previous dismissal. The hostess, Amber, immediately approached, her smile tight and unwelcoming. "Sir, I believe Marcus already explained that we're fully booked this evening. Just hoping to get a drink at the bar," Snoop said mildly. Amber glanced at the nearly empty bar, then back at him. "I'm sorry, but our bar seating is reserved for dining guests only. Perhaps you could try the spot down the street?" Snoop finished for her. "Yeah, I heard." He stood there for a moment longer, taking in the scene. Several more empty tables remained conspicuously vacant. While the staff seemed to be doing everything possible to avoid making eye contact with him, Marcus returned to his podium, his patience visibly wearing thin. "Sir, I'm going to have to insist that you leave. If you'd like to return another time, properly dressed and with a reservation." "Nah, I think I've seen enough," Snoop said, his voice shifting back to its natural cadence. "But I got a feeling we'll be talking real soon." He turned and walked out, leaving a confused Marcus and Amber behind. As he reached his car, He pulled out his phone and dialed his restaurant manager, Andre. "Yeah. Call an emergency staff meeting for tomorrow morning. 9 a.m. sharp. We got some things to discuss." The sun had nearly set as he drove away, his mind already formulating plans for how to address what he'd witnessed. This wasn't just about one bad experience, it was about ensuring his vision for Soul Kitchen truly lived up to its name. Tomorrow would be interesting, to say the least. The next morning, Soul Kitchen's staff filtered into the restaurant. Puzzled by the early meeting, Marcus adjusted his tie nervously, while Amber and Jessica whispered together near the bar. Andre, the restaurant manager, stood at the front, his expression unreadable as he checked his watch repeatedly. At precisely 9, the front door opened. The staff's confusion turned to shock as Snoop Dogg walked in, dressed impeccably in a designer suit. Behind him came James, his business partner and legendary restaurateur. The room fell silent. "Morning, everyone," Snoop said, his voice carrying easily through the quiet space. "Some of y'all might recognize me from yesterday, though I was wearing something a little different." He gestured to Andre. "Show them." Andre pulled up security footage on the dining room's large display screen, showing Snoop's interaction with Marcus and Amber from the previous evening. Marcus's face drained of color as he watched himself turn away the restaurant's owner. Amber sank lower in her chair. When the footage ended, Snoop looked around the room. Soul Kitchen ain't just a name. It's supposed to be about bringing people together, about serving good food with respect and dignity. But what I saw yesterday? He shook his head. That ain't it. Marcus stood up, his voice shaky. "Mr. Dogg, I am so sorry." "If I had known that's exactly the problem," Snoop interrupted. "You shouldn't have to know who someone is to treat them with respect. You saw how I was dressed and made assumptions. How many other potential customers you turn away 'cause they don't fit your image of who belongs here." The staff shifted uncomfortably, unable to meet his gaze. Jessica raised her hand hesitantly. "We were just trying to maintain the upscale atmosphere you wanted." "Upscale doesn't mean exclusive," James chimed in, his voice firm. "Some of the finest restaurants in the world make everyone feel welcome, regardless of how they're dressed or who they are." "That's true hospitality," Snoop nodded. "This spot was meant to elevate soul food. Yeah, but not to make it inaccessible. Where I come from, soul food brings people together. Rich, poor, dressed up. Dressed down doesn't matter. The table is for everybody." He walked over to Marcus, who looked like he wanted to disappear. "I'm not here to fire anyone. I'm here to fix this. Starting today, we're implementing new training programs. James here is going to work with each of you on true hospitality. We're going to post clear policies, no more making up dress codes on the spot." Amber spoke up, her voice quiet. "What about reservations? Sometimes we do get really busy. Then we tell people the truth about the wait time and offer them a spot at the bar while they wait." Snoop replied, "We don't make up excuses or send them down the street. Every person who walks through that door is a potential regular, a potential friend. They might tell their friends, their family. That's how you build a restaurant that lasts." The staff nodded, the tension in the room beginning to ease as they realized this was about improvement, not punishment. Snoop continued, his voice softening slightly. "Look, I get it. We all got biases we need to check. But Soul Kitchen is about breaking down barriers, not building them up. From now on, our standard is simple: treat everyone like they could be the owner. Because there's something even more important. They're our guests." Over the next few weeks, the changes at Soul Kitchen were dramatic. Under James's guidance, the staff learned to welcome everyone with genuine warmth. Marcus, particularly motivated to redeem himself, became known for going out of his way to make every guest feel special, regardless of their appearance. 1 month later, Snoop returned, again in casual clothes. This time, Marcus's welcome was warm and genuine, with no hesitation. As he sat at his table, Snoop smiled, overhearing a server at the next table treating a young couple in jeans and t-shirts with the same respect as the business executives across the room. Soul Kitchen had finally become what it was meant to be, a place where the food fed the body and the hospitality fed the soul. The lesson had been learned. True luxury isn't about exclusivity. It's about making everyone feel like they belong. 6 months after the transformative staff meeting, Soul Kitchen had become a shining example of how inclusivity and excellence could coexist perfectly in fine dining. The restaurant's reputation had grown not just for its innovative soul food, but for its remarkable atmosphere of genuine welcome. On a busy Friday evening, Snoop sat at a corner table, quietly observing the beautiful chaos of a packed house. The diversity of the crowd told its own story. Tech entrepreneurs in hoodies sat next to couples in evening wear, while groups of friends in casual attire mingled with business executives. The common thread was the contentment on their faces, and the way the staff treated everyone with equal attention and respect. Marcus, who had experienced the most profound transformation, was working his magic at the front desk. Snoop watched as he warmly greeted an elderly couple in simple clothing, treating them with the same enthusiasm he showed to the celebrity who had walked in moments before. When a young artist type with paint-stained jeans asked about a table, Marcus not only found him a spot, but engaged in a genuine conversation about the man's work. The changes had produced unexpected benefits. Revenue had increased by 40% since implementing the new inclusive policy. The restaurant's social media presence exploded with positive reviews, many specifically mentioning how welcome they felt regardless of their appearance or background. Soul Kitchen had become known as the place where the food was elevated, but pretension was left at the door. Snoop noticed Jessica, who was now the lead trainer for new staff, teaching a recently hired server an important lesson. "See that table?" she whispered, pointing to a group in mixed attire. "They're regulars now, but they were almost turned away during our old days. That artist in the vintage jacket? He just sold a piece to the museum. The woman in the casual dress? CEO of a tech startup. But none of that matters. They're regulars because we made them feel at home before we knew any of that." The kitchen had evolved too. The head chef had created a special community table program where once a week, 2 tables of strangers were seated together for a family-style meal at a reduced price. The program had become so popular that there was now a waiting list, and several lasting friendships and even business partnerships had formed over these shared meals. As the evening wound down, Snoop called for an impromptu staff gathering. The team assembled, their faces bright with the satisfaction of another successful service. Even those who had been initially resistant to the changes now stood tall, proud of what they had helped create. "Family," Snoop began, looking around at his team. "6 months ago, we had to have a hard conversation about who we wanted to be. Tonight, I watched you show exactly what Soul Kitchen is all about. Every single person who walked through that door was treated like royalty, regardless of what they were wearing or how they looked." Marcus stepped forward, emotion evident in his voice. "Mr. Dogg, that day changed my life. I realized I had been judging books by their covers my entire career. Now I take pride in making sure everyone feels like they belong here." Amber, who had been promoted to customer relations manager, added, "The amazing thing is, by opening our doors wider, we've actually become more exclusive, not because we keep people out, but because the experience we provide is so unique. People come here because they know they'll be treated with respect." Snoop nodded, a satisfied smile on his face. "That's the secret ingredient right there. Good food feeds the body, but respect feeds the soul. When you give people both, they don't just come back, they bring their people with them." He raised his glass in a toast. "To Soul Kitchen, where every chair is a VIP seat and every guest is family." The staff raised their glasses in response, the crystal catching the warm light of the chandeliers. As they celebrated together, a final group of guests was finishing their meal. They were an eclectic mix: a teacher, a construction worker, and a judge. All friends from their neighborhood. Their animated conversation and laughter embodied everything Soul Kitchen had become a place where good food, respect, and genuine hospitality broke down all barriers. The next morning, Snoop found a letter on his desk. It was from a guest who had dined there the previous night. Dear Mr. Dogg, last year I was turned away from a fine dining restaurant because of how I looked. Last night, your staff welcomed me like family. The food was incredible, but it was the dignity I was treated with that will bring me back. You've created something special here, a place where the food elevates the soul and the welcome warms the heart. Thank you for showing that true luxury isn't about keeping people out. It's about bringing people together. Snoop pinned the letter to the staff bulletin board, a reminder that success isn't just measured in dollars and cents, but in the lives touched and the barriers broken. Soul Kitchen had become more than a restaurant. It was a movement, one meal at a time. We advocate for a world where everyone has equal rights under the law, and where society continues to grow in fairness, development, and civilization. Our goal is to share heartwarming stories that contribute to making life better. Any resemblance to real events, individuals, or organizations is purely coincidental and unintentional. These stories are not meant to reference any actual people, events, or entities, and contain no political or religious connotations.